Welcome, 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 my friends. You are here for another episode of the MLO Project. I am your host, Frazier, and joining me always on this fantastic voyage is my main man out of the great state of Idaho, Mr. McAllister. Michael, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man? It's a beautiful morning out here in Idaho.
I highly doubt that. I highly, having been to Idaho, I don't know.
Hey,
I don't know.
Greatest airport in America.
It is the quickest and I'll just say that it's the quickest airport that I've ever been to in my life. So hats off to Boise, my friend. All right, today we are talking about Michael. Just kidding. We're talking about failure, but they're one and the same. And so woo! Starting off good. Starting off hot. No,
thesaurus. Look it up.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up. We are talking about failure today, and so I did a growth note not too long ago for those of you that subscribe to growth notes, and what I talked about is the name of the growth note. By the way, it's a podcast every single day, and it was Failure Sucks, and I think it was episode 222, right? And basically, as a coach and as someone that's been like on the speaking circuit and worked with a lot of other coaches, a lot of like inspirational speakers and motivational guys or whatever, what do you hear most as an originator, right? You hear about like, hey, failure is just an important step on the way to success. And, you can't get success without failing and this and that. And all of it's true. Don't get me wrong. Like all of it's 100% true. It's 100% valid. And I get why you want to focus on that. But I think there's also kind of a mistake when we just kind of gloss over that, like failing fucking sucks, right? Like losing freaking sucks. It's shitty feeling. It's a painful feeling. No one likes to lose. No one likes to fail. And there's a few things that I want to unpack about that. Is one is not glossing over that, is that's really real. And guess what? Like as a loan officer in the industry, you are going to fail. You're going to fall right on your face, right? It's going to happen either by your own doing or by something other, something you don't control. Things are going to fall flat, right? Like a dead fish. It's just going to happen. And I don't think anyone is done any well of a service if you just gloss over of like, well, just kind of keep going. And yes, like you obviously want to continue to do that. But there's two things that I want to unpack today. And then we're actually going to talk about failure. I'm going to talk about, failures that I've had, which have been extensive. Michael, I'm going to have him share, a failure that he's had and something that was like a learning moment and kind of the bouncing back, but understanding that failure is pain. But you cannot let that pain turn into fear, meaning don't let the pain of failure turn into a fear of failure, because that's going to stop you right in your tracks and you're not going to progress and you're not going to achieve what you want to, set out to achieve. The second part of that is that just because you failed does not make you a failure, right? And so even though like I'm not trying to gloss over the painful piece of that, but it plays right into the fear thing, is that just because you failed doesn't mean that you're a failure. And if you feel like you're a failure, then man, I suck and I'm not gonna be able to do this. And then all the shit comes into your head and then you again stops you in a track. And it's not necessarily fear. It's just that like it's that negative self-talk that keeps you down. And so so with those two things, one is I want to get your take on that, Michael, and then we'll get into kind of like some sharing stories of failure. So like on that pain of failure, feel of failure, like what is your opinion and perspective on that?
Yeah, I think what happens with the cliches around failure, around, not like it's just a step in the process. And it's, I think with like the normalization, let's use that word, normalization of failure. I think you use that, you said you shouldn't fear failure, but I'm not like nearly as deep into like the coaching and self-improvement and stuff. I haven't near the experience that you do in this area. So I want to be corrected if I'm looking at this the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But I think of this as like, I think that the fear of failure is a positive thing. The paralyzing fear of failure is negative. Like the fear, like what we're talking about is what we're saying is almost, in my opinion, people don't fear real failure enough because we've romanticized failure. We've normalized failure in the context of like, you have to fail on your way to this, but people don't think about what failure actually means. Failure doesn't mean I set my targets at 4 loans this month and I only hit 2. Failure doesn't mean even I blanked this month. Like failure is like a deep, dark place. Like real failure is a really deep and dark place. And I think that the healthy fear of that failure drives a lot of people to really great shit, really powerful, life-changing shit. But when we normalize failure in the way that we do, like people don't, I don't feel like we're giving enough respect to like what failure actually means and what the avoidance of that failure, or even what the rebound from that failure, like what that transformation looks like and how powerful that really is. I think when people talk about failure, that they're not actually talking about real freaking failure, and that real failure is where like the freaking Phoenix level transformation takes place, and what those adages or and cliches are talking about is that moment. But most people don't ever even experience that because they're playing, I don't know, they're playing at the surface level kind of. I don't know. I got really deep with that and a little bit off the rails, but that's kind of what I was thinking about as you were talking about failure.
Interesting. What was your name again? No, I'm just kidding. No, but to be serious about it. No, I don't think you're wrong at all. And I think, I think when I talk about fear, I'm talking about like the fear of like, I have a fear of it, so I'm not trying it again. Right. So it's to your point of like paralyzing. I think you're right 100% on like, I think we've normalized failure to a point of where it's like, oh, pat on the back, stuff like that. And I get where people come from that school of thought. I think that a healthy failure, healthy fear of failure, meaning like that sucked and I'm never going to experience that level of like disappointment or pain again. So that's going to play into how I rebound. So like there's 2 pieces of that. And so the way that I took what you said was that using that fear to make that rebound better and higher chances of you succeeding, as opposed to like paralyzing, don't do shit. Right. So like, that's how I read. And then I do. And guys, this is important, right? Is that I don't think Michael and I disagree with the topic. What I think is that Michael, and this is what I want everyone, this is important, is that everyone has their own lens and perspective about how they look at a certain situation or topic. Right. And so like, Michael's, I don't say is different than mine, but he came at it from a different angle than I did. But that does not mean we disagree, and it does not mean that he's wrong, and it doesn't mean that I'm right and he's wrong, or he's right and I'm wrong. What it means, because it's all the same, right? Like it's 100% right. It's 100% valid and 100% factual based off of his lens and the way that you're going to do it. And so that also brings up another point, which I wasn't going to talk about. Not that I was like shying away from it, but I just didn't think about it. But is that like, everyone's like idea of failure is going to be different, right? Like, you know what I mean? 100%. And so like, cause to me, like real failure, and I'll get into, one of mine, during this episode, but, and it's a biggie, but like, and I've had more than a couple biggies. But I think I would more align with what Michael was talking about, is like, I'm talking like fucking in the gutter failure, like pick me off the mat, coach, because I'm knocked, the F out on the ground failure, as opposed to like, oh shit, I didn't hit my goals this month of like, I didn't do any loans I meant to do 2, or whatever it happens to be. To me, those are like achievements, objectives, whatever. And yes, and it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt to like not reach that goal, but it's also not like a deep in the darkness, in the basement type of failure. So
it's not a source of transformation.
Exactly. Right. Like on that rebound, because that's where you look at it. A lot of people, when they're talking about like, hey, I failed, I found one time, I failed 1,000 times, but I only needed to find one time that works. Absolutely, right. But it's not focusing on the context of what those rebound looks like, right? Like, what did that use to either fire, inspire, or change the methods of said individual on that rebound, right? And do that. And so, um, what's so Michael, like, like, because we're going to be like real on this, like, share a failure that you had that created a rebound, or just as an example when you're talking about like a super failure that you had, and um
Yeah.
unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. I've got I have a few that I was like kind of like
I know you've shared in the past
deciding
some
between.
things, but like,
Yeah.
but
No, I think so I got here's a good one. Let me go down the list. I got kicked out of school and charged with 2 felonies 3 months after I got to college on a baseball scholarship. I got caught with 1.5 ounces of weed in my dorm room. And it was in Yuma, Arizona, and they did not fuck around.
yeah.
uh, I did, and I found out. I I spent a night in jail, nothing crazy, but spent a night in jail. Got charged with a couple felonies. Ended up, pleading him down to a misdemeanor, like, possession charge. And thank God it didn't like wreck my life the way that it could have. But like, I mean, I was 18 years old, and I had like, I mean, I don't know how to describe, like, my entire life up to that point was either school or baseball. And then my senior year, I had high test scores, was ranked high in my class, graduated with above a 4.0 GPA because of AP classes and stuff. Some of, like, one of my best friends went to freaking Harvard. Like, I could have done, I could have gone to a good school, and probably had, some money to do that academically, but I really wanted to play baseball. I wasn't good enough to go to as good of a school with baseball as I was academically. And so I went to a junior college. And so it's like this culmination of decision making that's like, okay, I'm going to pursue my dream of getting college paid for 100% by baseball and playing baseball all the way through college. And then 3 months into that, like, I make some really stupid freaking decisions. And like, baseball career is over instantly like that. Lost my scholarship, had to work to pay back to even qualify for FAFSA again if I wanted to. Like, huge, like, scrape myself off the pavement kind of moment. And to be honest, it's crazy to be thinking and reflecting on this because it's been long enough that I haven't really in a while, but it was something that I thought about every day for probably 5-6 years, was the feeling that I had walking out of jail and having no one to call, and freaking in Yuma, Arizona, every day, and promising myself, like, I will not regret this. I'm not going to, like, I will transform from this and have a life that is such that I can look back at this and be glad that it happened. And like I said, that was my first real experience with like a deep failure, was like my entire identity, just kind of throwing it away in a couple months, and then having to kind of rebuild from that.
Man, that's crazy, right? Like, and it's definitely one of those stories that makes long term, and that just doesn't just like gloss over. You know what I mean? Like, this a long, and that's when we're talking about like failure, right? And now to that point, like, is there, and I'm sure you kind of mentioned to it, but like, is there anything specifically from that experience to where like you eke out to where you kind of think back on that, and when you're going through your normal, whether it's like risk taking, or, and obviously, you're like, hey, I decided to deal drugs full time, but like, it's like when you're talking about like, risk taking in business and life and things of that nature, when there is a little bit, is there anything that you take away from that applies towards this stuff?
Like, in a positive way, or like a PTSD kind of way?
It could be either, but because we got to be real about like the shit that like maybe keeps us from it, but I would say in both, right? Like, and either or.
I hate cops. I have like a phobia of cops. But no, aside from that, from a positive sense, I mean, it just like, it's what, like, to me, it's what the adages and the cliches are about, but you don't understand it until you experience it. It's like 100%. It defined who I am today. Like, still, like, I can still point to so much of my personality that, like, I have no idea what I would have looked like today if it wasn't for that moment, because I'm a completely different person because of it. And I reflect on that all the time. I just, like, it was 100% the feeling of having fucked up so bad that drove me to be a completely different person and handle my life a completely different way.
For me, so I guess this one is, I have a couple, right? One's a doozy, right? And honestly, like, we're not going to I'll just do one, because I think that's enough. One, I
got time.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you do. Like, one was be like me losing $1 million, right? Like, so, like, that's an easy failure to talk about. That does still continue to sting today. But that's, to me, that's monetary type of shit. Like, it is what it is. What I will say is, like, a personal failure, is, so and I haven't really ever told this story, because it's been long enough that I think I could tell it now. Because of the parties, because I won't mention names. People that knew me back then, people that were in my circle back then, understand who the players are and whatnot. But, like, so I used to be, when I left my mortgage company, and went out on my own to do consulting and to do, like, coaching. I at the time, I had built a pretty extensive real estate circle, right? Is it gave me everything, and it also inflated my ego quite a bit. Like, I'm a different guy today than I was back in 2019, right? Because, look, I'm coming off of, people are, like, asking me to speak at, like, their events. I'm, one of the few mortgage pros that have spoken at Inman, which is the real estate conference. I had just spoken at Gary Vaynerchuk's conference. Like, I'd done all this stuff, right? So my ego was pretty healthy. And so I was getting a lot of things. I had a good network of kind of a close knit group of call them friends, not friends with any of them anymore, but we started a group, right? And we were doing these things. We were in media, mortgage and real estate, bringing it all together, and everything was rocking and rolling. And through some of my own ego and choices that I made on that, and then decisions that I made by that, which I don't regret the decisions I made, because they were in my self-interest and needed to be done, as opposed to, now, doesn't take away the negative aspects of that. I don't regret what I did, but I regret what I became up to that point that caused me to be in that position. And so I used to be one of those, like, because I wasn't that guy, right? Like, I mean, I wasn't like, I wasn't someone that was, like, thought of as a leader, someone that was thought of like, hey, Frazier's, like, I want to have him speak. He's an expert, this or that. Like, cause it starts to play with you a little bit. And so I was too cool for school. And so I put myself in a clique that honestly, like, talk bad about others, right? That honestly, I don't want to say, like, bad, like mean, but, like, we were better. Like, we put ourselves above other people in the industry. Now, part of me always didn't really enjoy that piece of it, but I understood it and I went along with it. So I don't want to shy away, but all of that never always sat right with me. But to me, it was like, this is the real estate game. This is, like, how you play the game and how you put yourself in. And so with some partnerships and some relationships, it everything kind of fell down, and it all, and I'll say this now, because, like, I not that we're like enemies or anything, but, like, this all, like, came tumbling down when I was with Shred Media and Josh Pitts, right? And a lot of you guys know Josh. Now, I'm not going to talk bad about Josh. That's not what this is. We ended up parting ways. Last time I saw him, we talked for a bit, and everything was, cool. At least it is on my part, right? And so that was I was with Shred Media, and that lasted for like 9 months. And And it was during that time that everything kind of fell apart for me. And I was in Utah, and anyway, so like basically like one day I just like we just, hey, this is over, like we're terminating the partnership. And we had built a lot of great things together. And with that, it also culminated in like this whole grouping of real estate, people and other people that I had done stuff with, influencers. That all came crashing down at the same time. So basically everything that I built my entire world around at that time of like influence and everything else just freaking crashed, right? Just crashed around along me. And so the first person I talked to, it was Christine Beckwith, right? She's, you guys know Christine, founder 2020, one of my best friends, as a coach, right? Like, so she helped coach me, like, cause I had never been that low before, right? That was like, to me, that was failure. Like that was true failure, like knock you on the floor. Cause I not only like income streams, right? But like I'd been on my own, I built this brand, and everything that I had, like, visibility into just fucking crashed, right? It was gone. And so literally within like 24 hours, right? And so I had, some good support. Anthony Casa was a good supporter and helped me. Laura Brandao, another one. So like I had good support. I had some quality people, other relationships that I had built. But it caught like it was reputational damage because a lot of them went off. On there I've mentioned without mention names for certain people. I just, whatever. But they're getting their karma right now. But like is that it caused like relationships that I didn't have anymore. The people that I were connected to through these other people, they were like, we heard this and that, and they took a story. Now some of those people have come back to me because they realized that it was all bullshit, a lot of that stuff. And again, it's not me deflecting. Like I had as an equal, I'm just as much as to blame as everyone else for the situation. So I don't want to like make it sound at all that like I was just like an innocent victim and like everything else. I will say that like I'm the one that took the brunt of all the bullshit, but I still had a hand in it. So it was still choices that I made and stuff like that. So it was 100% like I don't like take, I didn't take any ill will to everyone that kind of walked away from me during that time. I understood it. And again, because I had ownership and over what happened, totally understood it. Didn't look at them any differently, but I had people that came back when they realized like all these other people are like, yeah, dude, like, they're you have not said one bad thing about any of these people. On the other hand, all of these people who are supposedly like my tight circle were like saying all these bad things. A lot of them were untrue. And anything that was like true, I owned up to 100%, said that's absolutely right. Then there's other shit that happened. I'm like, absolutely, like total like fiction. Right. And so anyway, my whole point is that I look back at that now, and when everyone, when I get the compliments now of like giving into, and that's the way that I am in general. But again, like me back then, 6 years ago, right? Like healthy ego, too cool for school, probably wouldn't give people a certain time, not the time of day. I don't want it to sound like that, but like I wouldn't be as invested because I kind of put myself as like I made it. Like I'm at the top. I'm like one of the people now, right? As opposed to now where I understood the value has to be with helping people first, right? It has to be with doing what I do, and that's what I'm known for. And then now I look at my reputation now and I'm like, yeah, like that like all of that happened 6 years ago has absolutely, because of my fear, to your point, is like I never want to go back to that fucking feeling ever again. Like I never want to have that ever again. Not nor do I ever want to have the reputation of being someone like that again. I want to be one of the good people. I want to be people that make an impact in a positive way. I want to be the people that's known, like if anything else says like, hey, he made a difference for me, and he made an impact for me. That's what I want. And so that shaped me, I would say, more than anything. Even losing the money that I lost, like that was a hit. But to me, this was a monumental, like, because your ego crashes, your circle crashes, your support crashes, money like everything crashes at the same time. And so that was probably as low as I've been.
Yeah. Damn. I feel like when you said that when you made a point about how you felt like you were on top of the world and how you felt like you had made it, that was
Yep.
what you had made it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When you said that, a light bulb went off of like, that's that's something that all of my failures, that if I like were to sit here and just list them, that's something that I could probably point to that they all have in common, is right before the failure you feel like you're on top of the fucking world, and like you made it. Not just made it. You feel like you don't have to put the same level of effort that you did to get to where you are, to continue on that path. Like that, those are the moments that I've been kicked the hardest. Including business examples. Like it's that feeling of like, oh yeah, okay, this is what I've been fighting. It's like, to me, the biggest transformations that I've had over time now, and after a couple different failures, maybe this ends up being a huge light bulb moment for the rest of my freaking life. And I can always point to this as like, no, you never made it. Like, don't forget, you never made it, because if you feel like you did, then around the corner could be a failure. Maybe this ends up being one of those moments for me, but that's like, that just struck a deep nerve of like, oh shit, okay, yeah, I definitely recognize that feeling, and I definitely recognize what comes after that feeling.
Yeah, and that's a great call out, because like, to your point, like I have not ever, like, even I've had great success in a lot of areas. Like when people are like, "Hey man, you're humble, just take like I'm like, I don't, like, there's always something. That's why I do a lot of shit, because like I'm never gonna, like, I look at it literally like what you just said, like I never will make it.
Yep.
That, like, my mindset is I'm never going to be at the top, because when I was like that, because I fell all the way down, right? It's like, you look at those like app games where you're like towers at the top, and you like fought, like I got kicked off like floor 333, and I got freaking fell all the way down through the ground into the basement. And so that's a good call out, because I will never make it. Like that's my thing, is that like I'm never going to put myself in that position ever again, and I'll just continue, and to me there's no downside to that, because it's like I'm gonna just keep on working, keep on going, and it has never failed me with doing the right thing. And guys, look, like a lot of people have asked about like what happened with, like, I've never shared that story with anybody, right? Like, so what I just
You still kind of didn't, to be clear. It was still pretty ambiguous. Just so I still don't know.
But I've never even gone to it. Well, because story. If I ever, I like, there's literally only two people in the world that know exactly the whole story. And so like, it's so, well, other than the people that were in group, and stuff like that. But like, I just don't do it, because it will cause a lot of like, just other shit that I just have no want to either. It's like I said, it's been 6 years now. Like it's time to let it go. Like it's time to to move on. And so, but like, yeah, it's just, a lot of people ask, and that's what it is. And my friends, like, I hope what you got from this episode is understanding, like, to what we talked about, like failure, like really like what failure is, as opposed to just like not succeeding at something that you were trying. And then understanding that, like, how that shapes and bounce back. But ultimately at the end of the day, like that could have been that, like what happened to Michael could have been a death blow to other people, right? And what happened to me could have been a reputation ender that didn't allow me to bounce back and come back, twice as strong as I have. I'm definitely in a way 100% better position today than I was back then. And I don't think I would have enjoyed the person I became had that not have happened. Right. I don't know. Right. But just if I'm looking back and being honest, I don't think so. And so just, that's what I want you guys to take away from this episode is, one is, let's just have a real conversation about true failure. Understand that it is a part of success, and but how are you going to bounce back, and how are you not going to let that fear paralyze you, so that you don't have a second chance and a third chance? Because we're all about that in this country, and in this business. Everyone gets a second opportunity. We have a lot of people that failed as like owners and mortgage lenders and stuff like that, and they're back, right? Like, people are willing to give people a second chance. So give yourself one if you happen to get knocked down like Michael and I have. So
yeah. And for me, I want to call out, like, if you listen to this and you just like couldn't relate at all, because you've never been in that deep of a spot of failure, I would encourage you to ignore the cliches that you're hearing, because you're probably not playing at the level that you could be. You're probably not, playing with the stakes high enough if you've never ever experienced that. And you have goals that you haven't been able to achieve. there might be a missing piece. You might be playing too shallow in a really deep game. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there.
Awesome. So guys, yeah, I mean, I don't want to like end on a somber note, but I think this is
Let's do it.
It's a good this I hope this was an impactful episode for you. And like we always try to have fun and whatnot, and we do that anyway. But at the same time, like the success is a project, right? Like you working on yourself is a project, and more importantly is understanding that the one thing I look at in this industry is like there's no downside in trying to be the best version of yourself. There's no downside at trying to work hard to achieve something great for yourself and your family. This is the industry to do it. And we hope this message and this, on our podcast in general, this episode and this podcast in general helps you do just that. So on behalf of my co-host, Mr. McAllister, I am Frazier. We are Empower LO, and this is another amazing, awesome, incredible episode of the MLO Project. And we will see you on the next episode.